You are in your business all the time. How are you coming up with content? And what are some tips you have for other, entrepreneurs who are trying to make content while also running a business?
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to this, which is you could also want to run your business and have a family. You could also want to run your business and find a wife or a husband. There's always going to be competing priorities. And so it's just a matter of understanding that in periods of time where you want to grow something else, you have to sacrifice something, which is usually like your leisurely time. So for me, like that, for example, like this last weekend, like I woke up, I had people in town, but I woke up at 5 a.m. and I from 5 to 9, like busted out content because I knew we were going to be doing YouTube videos later in the week. I like to like script out and know the points I want to hit for YouTube. So I did that. And so a lot of the times, it's like the team preps ideas of like, this is like what we're thinking. Here's some different headlines. Here's some stuff that people have wanted from your other videos. And then that gets me enough to be like, okay, I think I know what I want to talk about. But it's making the time, it's rather than, and it's like every once in a while I'm like getting in the dumps. I'm like, Alex, it's so much easier just to run the company. Like now I have to like make content, I'm speaking, I'm doing all this stuff. Like it's so much harder. You have to remember why you're doing it. I think that's the most important piece is that in anything in life, it's like if you're annoyed with your spouse or you're annoyed with your kids, it's like why are they there? Why did you want to have kids? Why did you want to have a spouse? And I think it's always remembering and like connecting back to that why. And I always just remind myself, I'm like, I want to be what I wish I had when I was building a business. Therefore, I will do these things even if in the moment it's uncomfortable and I don't want to do them.
Yeah.
And so, making the time is easy when it's a priority to you. It's just like anything else. And if you're running a business, I think you're probably already good at managing your time.
Yeah.
It's just that you probably make a lot of excuses as to why it's not a priority because you're like, oh, it doesn't generate revenue yet. It doesn't do these things yet, et cetera. It can totally do that in the future though. And I think if anything, like what I like the most about it is that I've always wanted to have a voice to potential employees. And now I have that out there. So it's very balanced versus, when we had Gym Launch, it was Alex who was the face of in the ads. And we didn't even do organic content. It was just ads. So people knew that he was the owner of the business, but they didn't know like I was actually like running most of the business. And so they would come in and they were like, oh, I love Alex. And like they knew nothing about what I thought, my philosophies, like how I like to run things.
Yeah.
And so that was a decision I wanted to make on many terms because it can help people out there who are trying to do what I've done. And it can also help attract the right kind of talent to our business. And so there are a lot of benefits. You just have to be patient.
Oh, it's so good. And are you keeping a running list or like a journal list for your own personal things where you're like, oh, I was in that meeting. That was really good. I should talk about that. Or how do you go about just kind of involving your day-to-day into it?
Yeah, I'm probably less like that. Like Alex is much more like, oh, in the moment, let me write this down, or I'm going to tweet that, or I'm going to do that. I'm much more, I keep a list of ideas, but more often than not, it's like once a week when I do my setup on Sunday for the rest of the week, I'm like, okay, I remember there were some ideas I had about content. What triggered those ideas? And I go back and I look at my calendar. I'm like, cool, I had that meeting where this happened, and I was like, that would make a good piece of content. So I just literally go back and look at my calendar. I'm like, what did I do this last week that I learned lessons from that maybe reignited thoughts of old lessons I've already learned. Maybe I was training a CEO on something that I thought would be valuable to other people. And so that's typically what I do is I just go look at what I've already been doing. It's like Gary Vee says, document, don't create. And I think a lot of people think that that means I should have a camera guy following me around all day while I'm eating cereal.
Right.
I'm going to go viral.
Right.
And it's like, that's boring shit. Like my day to day, I'm like sitting at a computer, like in sweatpants, you know what I mean? Like it's not that exciting, but if I document the things I have experienced, the lessons I have learned and the epiphanies that could be utilized, it's almost like I'm filtering out the rest that's not necessary. And so it's like I'm documenting the things that are useful to the audience.